In the days of yore, woven into the rich tapestry of Greek mythology, a tale as old as time itself emerges from the epic verses of Homer's Iliad. It speaks of a legendary wedding, grand and resplendent, held upon the slopes of Mount Pelion. The valiant Greek hero Peleus and the sea nymph Thetis, a goddess of ravishing beauty, were to be wed. Yet in a twist of fate, Eris, the goddess of discord, uninvited and overlooked, surreptitiously graced the occasion. With a mischievous glint, she cast a golden apple inscribed with "To the fairest," thereby setting the stage for celestial turmoil. As if by an unseen hand, the apple of discord aroused the vanity of three mighty goddesses: Hera, the queen of the gods; Athena, the goddess of wisdom; and Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. Each, in her own right, yearned to claim the title of the fairest. Amidst this divine dispute, Zeus, the father of gods and men, sought the judgment of Paris, a mortal prince of Troy. The choice of Paris was fraught with consequence, for he awarded the apple to Aphrodite. In return, she clandestinely aided him in the abduction of Helen, the radiant queen of Sparta. This act of passion and deceit ignited the flames of war. Thus, the mighty Spartan king, unable to bear this affront, mustered an army of 100,000 men. Commanded by his brother Agamemnon, they embarked on a vengeful crusade against Troy, igniting a decade-long conflict known as the Trojan War. It was under the cunning guidance of Odysseus, king of Ithaca, that the Greeks deployed the Trojan horse, breaching the impregnable walls of Troy. What followed was a frenzy of plunder and a bloodbath of vengeance, culminating in the burning of the once glorious city. As centuries passed, the sands of time slowly buried these stories, relegating them to the realm of myth and legend. It wasn't until modern times that Western scholars began to revisit the annals of ancient Greece. For long, these Homeric epics were deemed mere mythological tales, unworthy of historical credence. Skepticism clouded the existence of Homer himself. However, not all shared this view. Among them was Heinrich Schliemann, a German archaeologist whose belief in the historical accuracy of these epics was unshaken. Our story today unfolds with Schliemann's quest, guided by Homer's narrative to unearth the historical truth behind the city of Troy. In the early 19th century, historians could trace the civilization of ancient Greece only as far back as the 8th century BC. Prior to this era, the lands surrounding the Aegean Sea were thought to be inhabited by impoverished, illiterate peasants. Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, while recognized as early literary masterpieces, were not believed to be grounded in reality. The opulent cities and valiant kings depicted therein were considered figments of imagination, mere elements of myth or legend. Some scholars even doubted the very existence of Homer. In 1870, driven by a relentless quest to discover the ancient city of Troy, the archaeologist Schliemann embarked on a journey that would etch his name in the annals of history. Accompanied by his newlywed wife, he traveled the long and arduous path to the Dardanelles Strait, reaching the plains of what he believed to be Troy, near the eastern Mediterranean coast. Upon meticulous examination of the terrain, Schliemann chose a small mound known as Hizarlik as the locus for his excavation. April of that year marked the commencement of his ambitious endeavor. Armed with a permit from the Turkish authorities, he employed a crew of 100 workers. The dig, starting in April 1870, persisted intermittently over 3 years. Schliemann's perseverance bore fruit. After years of toil, he unearthed layers upon layers of ancient ruins. Among these, the penultimate layer revealed a city with robust walls and towering gates, housing a once magnificent estate. The charred marks on the walls bespoke a city consumed by flames. Convinced by these signs, Schliemann declared this site to be the long sought-after city of Troy, the very palace of King Priam. However, his search for gold within the ruins initially proved fruitless. Exhausted in both body and spirit, Schliemann contemplated ceasing the excavation at his Zarlik. On June 14, 1873, in what was to be their final attempt, Schliemann and his workers toiled at the site near the circular walls of what he thought to be King Priam's palace. It was then, 18 feet deep into the excavation, that Schliemann's attention was captured by an unusually shaped object amidst the rubble, shimmering with the unmistakable luster of gold. Containing his excitement, he discreetly sent the workers home early with only his wife aware of the discovery. Alone, under the intense glare of the sun, Schliemann carefully brushed away the ashes, revealing the gleam of ivory and the sparkle of gold. The most precious items unearthed were 2 opulent golden crowns. The larger was composed of 16,353 pieces of gold leaf and foil. It was accompanied by an intricate necklace designed to encircle the wearer's head, dangling with 70 short and 16 long chains, each adorned with heart-shaped pendants. The fringes of the short chains elegantly framed the wearer's forehead, while the longer ones draped over the shoulders, enveloping the face in a cascade of gold. The second crown, similar to the first, had chains that fell onto a golden leaf band, with shorter side strands covering only the arms. The craftsmanship of both crowns was of unparalleled beauty. Among the rubble, they also found 6 golden bracelets, a hefty gold goblet weighing 601 grams, an amber gold chalice, a large silver vessel containing 60 golden earrings, 8,700 exquisitely crafted items, including perforated prism gold buttons, small gold bars and other ornamental pieces, as well as silver and bronze vases and bronze weapons. Given the compact arrangement of these treasures, Schliemann surmised they were originally stored in a wooden chest, which was later consumed by fire during the war, leaving the treasures in a rectangular formation. He speculated that as the Greeks breached Troy, someone hastily packed these valuables, fleeing in such a hurry that they didn't even remove the key. Perhaps confronted by fire or enemy pursuit, they abandoned the chest, which was soon buried under collapsing buildings and walls. Some theorized that these treasures were initially stored in a chest in the palace, only to fall near the city walls as the palace burned down. This hypothesis gained traction when another hoard was discovered just a few yards from the first. The narrative took another turn when 3 more treasures were found near the palace's foundations, leading some to believe they were hastily hidden by royal guards as the Greeks stormed the city, deliberately placed under the crumbling walls. Schliemann, until his last breath, remained steadfast in his belief that the treasures he unearthed belonged to King Priam's palace. Firm in his conviction that he had found the ruins of Homer's Troy, particularly the Scaean Gate and the palatial complex of Priam, Schliemann identified the second-to-last layer of ruins as the legendary city. However, his interpretation was later challenged and overturned by other archaeologists less than 3 years after his death. Despite the inaccuracies in Schliemann's conclusions, his discoveries were unparalleled. His assistant and successor, Wilhelm Dorfeld, continued the diligent excavations and ultimately uncovered the 6th settlement layer. The Troy site is divided into 9 distinct historical phases. Layers 1 to 5 are attributed to the early Bronze Age, 6 and 7 to the Middle and Late Bronze Age, and 8 and 9 to the early Iron Age. The original city of Troy was a small fort with a diameter of over 90 meters, featuring stone columns, walls, and gates, serving as a refuge for local farmers and villagers during times of peril. Troy, too, built atop its predecessor, was a larger and more affluent fortress, spanning over 120 meters in diameter. It featured a royal palace and other structures. In one of the royal treasuries, archaeologists discovered a wealth of gold, silver, bronze, stone, and bone artifacts. The city met its demise through a devastating fire, leading Schliemann to mistakenly identify it as the Troy of Homeric fame. The subsequent 3 layers were larger than their predecessors. The 6th layer, in particular, housed many new residents, had sturdy walls expanded several times, reaching a total length of 540 meters, and featured at least 4 gates. It also contained numerous noble residences. Around 1300 BC, this city was destroyed by an earthquake. The layer above, Troy 7a, was plundered and burned around 1250 BC. Historians pinpoint this date based on the precise identification of imported Mycenaean pottery. Most scholars believe that Troy 7a represents the city of King Priam and the backdrop for the Trojan War story. The subsequent layer, Troy 7b, had a short lifespan and was abandoned around 1100 BC. For the following centuries, the site lay desolate. Troy 8 was established in the early 7th century BC when Greeks from nearby islands reoccupied and thrived in the area. Eventually, the Romans plundered the city around 85 BC and established Troy 9, which archaeologists recognize as the final phase of the city. By around 400 AD, the city was deserted and remained undisturbed until Schliemann's rediscovery. Although most scholars agree that Schliemann's dating of the Troy he excavated was not entirely accurate, there is no doubt that he was the first to identify and excavate the site. The rediscovery of ancient Troy is a credit primarily due to his efforts. The saga of Schliemann's discovery of the fabled Trojan treasure took a dramatic turn following its excavation. It is said that Schliemann, rather than reporting his find to the Turkish authorities, clandestinely transported the treasures to Greece. This act sparked an uproar once it became public knowledge. The Turkish government vehemently demanded the return of the treasures, and under their pressure, the Greek government felt compelled to decline acceptance of these artifacts. Consequently, Schliemann had no choice but to send them to his homeland, Germany, where they were housed in the Berlin National Museum. As the tides of World War II turned against Germany, the priceless artifacts of Troy, along with other German art treasures, were reportedly stashed away in underground bunkers. However, at the war's end, these treasures mysteriously vanished, leading some archaeologists to question the authenticity of Schliemann's account of the treasure hunt. It wasn't until April 1996 that the Trojan treasures resurfaced in the Pushkin Museum in Moscow. This discovery reignited a contentious debate over ownership, with Turkey, Germany, Greece, and Russia all laying claim to the treasure. This dispute, often referred to as the Second Trojan War, seemed destined for a protracted battle. Yet, from the perspective of world heritage, the mystery of Troy remains far from solved. Despite the efforts of Schliemann and subsequent archaeologists, no definitive evidence has been found to prove the site as the Troy of Homer's epics. The archaeological evidence suggests that the 6th and 7th layers of the site bear some resemblance to Homer's description of Troy, but these layers are markedly less grand than the Troy depicted in the Iliad. Homer's portrayal of Troy in his epics paints a picture of a grand city, fortified with towering walls and gates. He even specifically mentions the subpar construction of Troy's western wall. This detail, echoed in archaeological findings, has fueled speculation and debate about the true nature of the ancient city. Archaeological discoveries have revealed that the 5th layer of Troy's ruins had walls over 4 meters thick, with some sections rising above 9 meters in height. Intriguingly, the western wall was indeed found to be poorly constructed, leading some to conjecture that the Troy of Homer's epics might correspond to this 5th layer. However, whether it's the 5th, 6th, or 7th layer, it seems that the treasures unearthed by Schliemann are not the fabled riches of Priam depicted in Homer's tales. The question then arises, who did these treasures belong to, and where might the true treasures of Priam lie? Subsequent archaeological expeditions, including a joint German-American team that began excavations in 1998, have continued to delve into the mysteries of Hisarlik, the site of ancient Troy. Despite over a century of scholarly effort, new breakthroughs have been elusive. The long-buried history beneath the mound of Hisarlik has been gradually uncovered, revealing the rise and fall of a civilization that thrived thousands of years ago. Troy, undoubtedly a formidable power in ancient times, was strategically located at the strait, overseeing the trade routes between Europe and Asia. This advantageous position not only brought prosperity and strength to Troy, but also made it a target for conflicts and invasions. Such conflicts, possibly remembered and passed down through centuries, might have added to the mythological and legendary aspects of Homer's tales, enhancing their dramatic allure. In recognition of its historical and cultural significance, the archaeological site of Troy was added to the UNESCO World Heritage List in 1998. Today's Hazarlik is a far cry from the mound of earth Schliemann began excavating in 1870. The site, including a reconstructed giant wooden horse at the entrance of the archaeological area, has become one of Turkey's most significant cultural landmarks.